Hey folks, welcome. It's another house coat chat. Your dude in a house coat, just truth. Let's take off the hoodie. And yes, folks, welcome to January the 4th. Am I right? Yes, I am. It's just after 4 o'clock. I really wanted to show a little earlier. Had a wee bit of technical difficulty. I don't know why YouTube was not letting me go live a little earlier, but here we are today, folks. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you remember, folks, we're going to start off the show with a good bang, and that is the scone is lit for Venezuela. Yes, the freedom of the Venezuelan people, and also we all know, if you've been watching my show, the scone's lit for many things, past, lost loved ones, whatever, and things like that. On all those wonderful things. But yes, a shout out to the good people in Venezuela who are very, very happy to be out of the boots of communism, socialism, and a thug, no matter how you put it, and how the world and the media, especially Canada media, is portraying Manduro. He was a man of the people who ruled with an iron fist. Oh, wow, let's praise Manduro, but let's slam Orange Man or Pierre, right? It's a crazy world, but folks, I am mostly stunned by all that because I was on X late the other night when it all unfolded, and I was happy to see what was going on, a little shock and awe, so to speak. But I was really surprised that they collapsed Hugo Chavez's grave, basically, in Venezuela. And like nothing says, sucks to be you when you blow up a former leader's grave. Yes, folks, I mean, it is absolutely mind boggling to know that the fact that they went in there, scooped up him and his wife, Manduro and his wife, and not a casualty happened. The fact that Trump said in a news post, and I watched it and listened, is that he said we were able to shut the power off in Venezuela because we have people that are very good at their job. And not many people in the media, and especially in Canada, picked up on that. And also, folks, and I will have to say this on everything that's going on in that wonderful escapade, or whatever you want to call it, is that, yes, the people are happy. Despite what we have here in Canada, where a lot of people are like, oh my God, can't believe that they're doing it. We have protests in front of the U.S. Embassy and the Venezuelan Embassy in Canada telling that they were bad at what they did. But you know what, folks? This man did not win his election fairly in 2020 or whatever year it was that he won. It was corrupted. Most of the world leaders, including Joe Biden and Justin Trudeau and the so-called foreign ministers back in the day, all condemned Manduro. But yet I am seeing my CBC tax-paying dollars using quotes like, he was a man of the people, but ruled with an iron fist. He killed people, folks. Gas burnt them. He electrocuted them. There was sexual violence. There's a whole host of things. Things that are probably going to, I'm telling you right now, they're going to suppress my video as we speak on YouTube. Yes, Manduro was a bad man. His wife, I have no clue who she is. I have not seen a picture of her since they've captured him. So I imagine she's gone somewhere completely different, separated from Manduro, because now Manduro is property of the United States. This wasn't really a so-called invasion, folks. This was like, I don't know how to put it, kind of like an action movie, so to speak, right? The A Team. If you remember the A Team in the 80s, they always had a perfect plan to solve whatever issue that was going on. And again, I want to initiate or whatever you want to say. I can't believe I'm having trouble speaking, but that comes with ballot policy. Folks, I will say this. No one really died. There may have been some casualties I am unaware of, but no U.S. soldier passed away. Manduro wasn't shot, and none of his guards were shot. Now, there may be deaths as we speak. I do not know. But I will say this on Venezuela. Years ago, when I went to visit my dad, I was at a Calgary hotel, and a young man was working in the restaurant. He was from Venezuela, and at that time, this is years ago, and this is before I think Manduro became the person he is or was for that country. I was asking him, I've been hearing a lot of good things about Venezuela. And he looked at me and he's like, oh, no, 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 no. Things are not good in Venezuela. why I left. He was a waiter in a restaurant in a Calgary hotel. I wonder, as of today, how he's doing and if he ever thinks of going back after what just happened. Now, I watched video after video after video of people celebrating within Venezuela, including live footages of people who were streaming, doing their own podcasting, OnlyFans things, whatever you want to call it, right? They were on the internet. I don't follow any OnlyFans or anything like that, but you get what I mean. Like myself, I'm speaking to you as live of now, but watching one live Venezuelan person while he's walking the streets doing a show and all the power cuts out. His phone still kind of worked, got a little dark, right? And stuff like that. Other people who were at home watching things, they couldn't understand what was going on. Once they found out what was going on, the joy in the rooms was amazing. You know, it was almost like, how do I put it, when the Freedom Convoy in Canada. Different little scenario, but the idea is the same. We want some freedoms. And in this country, in Canada, we are losing our freedoms at a small rate of 1,000 cuts, basically. Tiny little cuts, 1,000 cuts to death. I'm trying to get that expression right out of my head, but I kind of screwed that up. But you get it, right? A death by 1,000 cuts. That is what is happening within this great country, because if Carney was supposed to ignite our industry and revolutionize our country so that we are our own best customer, why is he promoting censorship laws? Why is he promoting not goodwill amongst the country? Why is he not trying to actively negotiate with the United States? And get this, folks, you just saw what happened in Venezuela regarding the drug thing. That's part of the issue there. The drugs was one thing, the oil is the other. There are some American companies who lost hugely to the deal that of their oil facilities that are in Venezuela when it was taking over. And I want to put this out there. Nobody in the frickin' world knew what would happen. Everybody is stunned, from the Democratic Party in the United States to the British government to the Canadian government to Iran to Russia to everybody else. They are stunned that we, or I shouldn't say we, the Americans, the Delta Force, Pete Hegseth and his staff and all his planners were able to execute such a maneuver to kidnap a sitting president, an illegal president of a country, mind you, folks. Remember, he lost hugely and he lied about his election. Those things you can look up yourselves, folks. I'm not going to display things. I'm just a dude in a house coat trying to tell you a story, so to speak. Have some dialogue saying, you need to look, you need to read more. And I can tell you right now, if you're on X, so to speak, there's a search bar in the upper right corner of the whole thing where you can type in Venezuela and you can type in Delta Force, you can type in America, and then you will see a whole slew of stuff that will talk about what you're interested in. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. Reading, like books, folks. I know you might not be able to see the title of this book. I will try and bring it in a little closer. That's a pretty good job. Alexandra, I think I said his first name right, and I'm not really going to attempt the last name, but The One Day in the Life of Ivan Denovich. I will tell you what. This book is a parallel to what is happening in Venezuela, because many, many people in Venezuela are suffering under the harsh conditions of a communist socialist rule. When they had a little uprising a while back, and I'm going to have to go maybe a year, 18 months ago, people were able to break into government warehouses and see for themselves all the medicines and everything else that Manduro and his regime held back from the common people of Venezuela. There are many people out there, folks, and I encourage you to go listen to some people from Venezuela rather than listen to mainstream media in Canada, because I can tell you right now, and I'm going to say CP24, it's a channel, could be the government one for all I know, but they couldn't explain exactly what the protests in Canada were about. They did not explain it very well, other than to try and paint it like America is some bad, evil empire. The Americans have introduced or reintroduced a document called the Monroe Document. The world is changing. Mark Carney is right on that. And I wish Mark Carney would be on the right side of this world is changing. And let me get to this, what I'm going to say. The Monroe document is basically a hemisphere controlled document where the Americans are going to control this hemisphere, which is South America, North America, possibly Greenland as well. There are so many things going on, folks. And if you really would cut through the fog, the deflections, the distractions of the media, you will come to your own conclusion that it is shifting. And if we don't align with the right people, we are not going to end up in a good position down the road. As in Venezuela, as we speak, if Mark Carney could have, would have negotiated more with Trump before the expiration of CUSMA, our trade deal between Mexico, Canada, and the United States. It's expiring soon. We lost the leverage with the oil out of Venezuela. Now, people are panicking, but I'd like to remind people in history that before Chavez took over Venezuela and Manduro ran it afterwards, is we still supplied the Americans with oil. And I do believe the Americans brought oil in up from Venezuela because in those years, oil was in peak demand. It is still in peak demand, but riddle me this, why aren't prices rising? I mean, just the other day, I heard gas is $1.99 in some places in the United States a gallon. Hit below $1 in Alberta in a few places. And yet, every time that I grew up in almost my 40 plus years of recognizing gas prices, I'm 53, so 13 or whatever, when I start to become aware of all these things and, why is things getting expensive? Why does gas go up? And all these years we're like, oh, war broke out. This happened, right? The OPEC's doing this, OPEC's doing that. And that's another thing with the Monroe document. By going back into Venezuela, they actually take away OPEC's ability to try and manipulate oil prices. We just got a huge leverage shift for us in North America, folks. You do not understand the implications of this until maybe later. And I'm not trying to justify any action. I'm not trying to say anything other than you should read more. The Monroe document, and I also heard this term, the Trump colloquy, which is something I'm going to look up in the meantime. I'm not really going to dwell on it because it was attached to something that I read about the Monroe document, which is trying to secure this Western Hemisphere to be controlled by the United States and not being influenced by other adversaries such as China, Iran, and so on, even Russia. You got to keep in mind that while Russia and China are condemning the actions of the Americans of kidnapping this individual, China and Russia have been using Venezuela as a proxy. China's been using it to try and get the oil from Venezuela to China to basically help run their economy and their so-called war machine. They may not actually be up to doing any shenanigans at the moment, but their fingers, their little panda paws are everywhere. If you'd ever heard of the Belt and Road Initiative, it's a wonderful concept, but underlying it all, it is a Chinese grasp at wanting to take over the world, so to speak, through financial means with other countries to bring them to their knees and force them to give up, like the port that was just built because that country missed a payment to China. And then China gets to own that port and have sovereignty in that land. Those deals are really, really scary, folks. They are. China has wonderful technology, wonderful stuff going on over there, but they are not a good party. I shouldn't say the Chinese. The Chinese Communist Party is what's bad, not the overall general people of China and stuff. So it all ties in with this Venezuelan thing that's going on. Also, what's being tied in and not really talked about is the systematic voting machines that are going from Venezuela that have been, I guess, doing shenanigans in elections. That's all I'm really going to say about it because there are some parallels to what happened in 2020 in the US election and somehow connections to Venezuela. Slowly, I am pretty sure that we are going to have an awakening of exposing people who were hell-bent on trying to get their way to make the world change without letting the world just be the way it is and grow and prosper, and hopefully things get better. I hope you all like my new light, the new aliens light there. Danica bought me for Christmas. I had it pointed somewhere else. It really wasn't showing off all that much. I do like the light. I just got to try and incorporate it a little bit better. I was hoping it would show off some stuff in the background where you see the moon and the scone. Don't forget that good old book of Jim McMurtry. If you have not read his book or know of him, I highly recommend finding his book, The Scarlet Letter, and realize how corrupt our own institutions are in Canada to go after somebody who wants to speak the truth. Not the sidebar there, because I like to point out things that are in my background, such as my wife painted the dude in the housecoat picture. I really like it. I should probably put some new batteries in it so the lights can light up on it. And I may do that. I just don't want to keep moving stuff around, because if I accidentally knock something, I break something. Anyways, that's a little personal stuff and everything else in there. But the whole thing with Manduro and all that is wow, wow, and wow. And I can't tell you enough about the memes that I'm laughing at, the so-called electrical image of the new, I guess, political cartoons, so to speak. They're a lot of fun. I love memes, and hopefully I'll make a few myself one day. I've actually have. If you're on X, you will have seen some of my memes from my account, Justice Truth, or my other account, Dude in the Housecoat, housecoat chat, whatnot. Anyways, one's a paid account, the other one's not, and the one that's not paid is where I post these videos, because I don't want my main account to be suppressed, because I'm not actually posting directly to X. I'm posting it to YouTube and transferring it to X. One of these days, I will figure things out so that both can be done simultaneously. But in the meantime, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. Like I said, I was a little frustrated earlier trying to get the show to go live, and it wouldn't work. I had to redo things, reset it up, and cancel the other Housecoat 64 and start up another one. Anyways, folks, let me have a bit of a break here. I can't believe I talked about 17 so minutes on Manduro. The other thing I guess we'll talk about, to slightly switch gears, is within Canada and our issues that we have going on in this country. And I will say this, but I'm not going to name names or anything like that, because I don't have anything really to post up here. But I will probably hopefully read you something that I posted in regards to what's going on in things. I have to add a little context here, because what I've written is I've written it in such a way that I hopefully won't get suppressed, because I use certain keywords in my post that won't be picked up by X's algorithm, so to speak, and suppress what I have to say. I am mostly a reply guy, which means that if you make a post, I will comment on it. I have very few of my posts actually get out there that seem to get traction. I think I'm shadow banned in that effect. But other than that, a lot of my reposting of other people get out there and everything else. Now, what I want to say is that we have this country that's slowly, like I said, a death of 1,000 cuts, going downhill. And it's going downhill because of the corruption within our government, the floor crossers, the laws that they're trying to make, whether they're trying to take law-abiding citizens' firearms, or they're trying to censor our speeches again and again and again. Now, I have brought these issues up to my MP. I yell at my MLA, so to speak. I'm exaggerating those terms. But yes, I am in contact with them. I am going to try and go to my local little town again for another civic meeting, because the best place to start is in your own community, so to speak. But let's get back to what I want to discuss with people online that are bickering amongst themselves, all because they are, oh, look at that. Oh, no, I got that back. And it's all because they're almost on the same side, but they don't like the viewpoints of the other people that want similar things, but maybe a little bit more extreme, right? You know what I mean? Anyways, the argumentation of these people are saying that, oh, but you guys have anti-Holocaustic views. I will leave it at that. And you know what? To be honest with you, when you say that in an argument, when you're talking about the state of this country, really, you just lost the argument because you're trying to smear the other side as being anti something. There's no need for the anti something if you have a good rebuttal to what somebody said without using smears, you know, and stupidity to go after somebody else because they have a slightly different view than you. And you also, I would like to point out, just like politicians who get a picture taken with someone, they don't know the person beside them. They're there in a meet and greet, and they don't know that they're going to be associating with criminals, child liking people. I don't want to use the correct term for that. Breathe through my Bell palsy lips, right? You know what I mean? All I could tell you was that why do you have to do the smear? And like all this, oh, but tribalism, this and that. No, what's needed in this country is to get the criminal elements out that are abusing our system, just like our taxpayers are abusing, or not, sorry, taxpayers, just like our MPs and the consultants and all the senior staffs are abusing Canada because they can. Now, you have to watch a previous video that I made to kind of understand where I'm going with that one. It goes all the way back to our second Prime Minister, Mackenzie. I think I made a reference to John A. Macdonald. That's incorrect. Mackenzie was his name. Remember, folks, I'm just a dude in a house coat that likes to read, trying to tell you a story, share a dialogue, hoping for exchange. Like, subscribe, whatever you want to do. Don't matter. Say I'm wrong in the comments. Don't matter. All I'm saying is read more. Anyways, folks, yes, all the bickering from people that are all wanting to try and change the direction of the government. Well, I'm going to try and read you what I was said out. And if you like what I said, thank you. Make a note in the comment. But I will say it right now. As sad as things are in this country, the people are always constantly fighting amongst each other, whether by accident or design. This constant push on such a historical event in the past has a reference to the Holocaust thing. And let me say it clear, like Mark Carney, who cares? This is not anti anything at all. The country is in trouble. I want better for this country. People in the comment section are just like politicians having pictures taken with known likers, known children likers. You can't control that. I mean, you moderate whatever, your feed and stuff, but you can't control what people reply to your post, just like a politician really can't control who's taken a picture with unless they actually know. You just don't know. Trudeau has several photos with pedophiles. I said the word. I wish I didn't. The video might get suppressed because I said that one word. Yes, he was known with known child likers. Sorry, YouTube, I did not mean to mention that word. Please don't suppress my video. Anyways, yes, people in the comment section are just like politicians having taken pictures with known child likers. Can't control that. History has many points of truth, and it's true. Propaganda has also distorted history as well, which is also true. If you read enough history, you will know that there is holes in history, which means we all need to read more. The me mum died in the holly is a weak and distraction. If you understand me mum in the holly, you get where I'm going with that one. What of all the street protesters currently wanting death to the Jews within Canada? Currently going on week after week after week, and they're now protesting the Venezuelan thing. Folks, these are paid protesters. Why would the Palestinian protesters be upset about what's going on in Venezuela, considering the situation in Gaza? They are paid. But back to my letter. I know I like to do a lot of talking. That's real life. It's not a rant or an emotional response given to any given thing on X or other platforms. That's what I mean. People in the comment section, they rant, they rave, they're keyboard warriors, right? I don't always read comments in the other feeds. True, I don't, but I like to. It's like reading the, whatchamacallit, the letters to the editors, so you get a feel for what the people in society are generally feeling. Yet free speech is paramount in my view. It is very paramount in my view. If the person wishes death and harm on others in speech, be warned. You could be charged. And that is so true. These last 10 years have drastically changed in this country. If you cannot see that, you must be a government employee and stuff. We are in the midst of the post-national state of Canada. Justin Trudeau has stated that. Justin T. and the Ivory People's goal. It's the Ivory Tower People's goal. The EU is a post-national state as well. Think on that one. I want Canada back. If it means I like remigration, then so be it. That is the issue that is being discussed amongst these people online, is the issue of remigration. And hopefully I won't be suppressed for that one. And I know I'm taking a long time to read my letter here, but I just want to read it because I thought I typed it well, and sometimes I write decent. I do. So, if it means I like remigration, then so be it. I'd rather a person wanting to be Canadian than a person using and scamming Canada. That is so true. We have too much of that going on within this country. Just think of the people in Richmond, BC, in that area, or not Richmond, sorry, but Surrey, who were all charged for extortion and immediately applied for refugee status from India. They shouldn't even get refugee status from India. It is a duly elected government there. There is no issue for them there. It's a democratic country. But anyways, there are only two kinds of people in the world that I believe in. You're either decent or you're not. And let's load up the knots and start deporting. ASAP. I am a Dominion Society member. They want remigration. They want to restore Canada to almost to the glory days of the old Dominion of Canada. And why not? Because the direction we are going, we're no longer going to have Canadians, or we're no longer going to have a indigenous group that's going to be taken care of, because this new wave of post-national state people are truly going to change Canada, and the indigenous are going to have it worse than they ever did, probably since the time we first arrived here. That is something else. So that is what I'd like to say on that issue. The people that are so-called conservatives, right-wing, whatever you want to call it, bickering amongst themselves because they can't decide on what immigration, remigration, or whatever it needs to be done. I know it's hard to try and describe a Canadian. I like to look at it as the Canadian who's a decent person, who looks out for his fellow countrymen, who helps out his country and does good for the country instead of scamming and extorting and then fleeing home, because our country's laws are in shambles, folks. They are in shambles, and I mean they are. Just think of what I just said about the guys that were doing extortion in Surrey. They applied for refugee status in Canada. We're not going to kick them out either. Look at the other people. Like, how about that gold heist theft that happened in Quebec, Ontario a few years back? One guy fled all the way to India, got a passport and left. It took a gym membership, Gold's Gym, for example. I'll just use their name. But a gym outfit in Quebec recognized one of the people that basically robbed all that gold, and they kicked him out of their exercise club. But our government gave them parole. Do you know what I mean? You look at the people that were stuck in the Freedom Convoy, not stuck is the wrong word, but that were outspoken. Look how the government went after them. They went so far as to want to steal and take the big red truck that Chris Barber had that was such an iconic symbol of the freedom movement within Canada during the convoy days. They wanted to confiscate it. And thankfully, just before Christmas, that did not happen. We are slowly drifting towards a communist shithole like Manduro's Venezuela was, or other countries that have people in power that should not be. Should not be. I know I've been talking a lot. I'm almost up to a half an hour, And also, I would like to give a shout out to an individual who basically reposted one of my posts regarding the whole Venezuela thing, because I had a good chuckle this morning, showed my wife. I'm not going to mention names because there's no need to. I'm just a dude in a house coat. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm having fun. Maybe one day I'll get paid. Maybe I'll get a thing that says, buymeacoffee.com, where you give me a couple of bucks that thank you, or to thank me for a good show, and I will say you're welcome, whatever. You know what I mean? I know I'm rambling here, forgive me. But anyways, the person here reposted my thing, or first this person said, my God, I can't believe Canadians are wanting to hopefully have Mark Carney kidnapped next. Look at this. And then showed off my post. And my post basically says, maybe Mark Carney is next because he is being investigated in the U.S. Senate for his GANS efforts. GANS is the Global Alliance of Net Zero. It is being investigated by the U.S. government, not the Senate, but the U.S. Judicial House Committee for things like bullying, anti-competitiveness, and a few other things, including fraud, I believe. Now, I'd like to point out to the person who did that, I did it online. I said, thank you. I meant to say the Judicial Committee, not the Senate. Thank you very much. And I reposted actual truth to her by using AI to help me find what the House Judicial Committee is actually looking into for Mark Carney and his GANZ, the Global Alliance of Net Zero. Anyways, folks, it is 31 minutes, and I don't really want to be too long. I'm having fun. This is a hobby. Please read more. I'm not the end-all, be-all arbiter of truth. I like to think I am truthful, and if I am wrong, you can let me know in the comments. If you like what I do, like, subscribe. Please do so. I do want to grow. I know I've only done a few shows. I hope to do more. Remember, the scone is lit for you've lost a loved one, inspiration for people who passed on that have encouraged you to do things. But most importantly, at this moment, it's lit for the people of Venezuela and hopefully their newfound freedom. I do hope the best for those people way, way, way south of us. Also, one last thing, do not forget that I always like to say this, go visit an SPCA at least once. You don't have to adopt, but maybe, just maybe, you may find a new friend. Thank you all. Take care and positive vibes.